Hi. Normally I don't do these sort of off-the-cuff videos. I'm not really comfortable just, I guess, speaking straight like this, because regularly I stutter and stammer and yammer. But I figured, what the hell, since I have the opportunity and I know what today, or at least this week, meant, I'm going to give it my best shot nonetheless. Um, Now, a lot of you don't know this, but I am incredibly political. And I've made that statement to a few people in my life and a few people I know in the internet and YouTube before. I have a specific idea of what that means, and I'm a progressive. I'm a socialist. I am someone who inherently is left wing. So obviously, that combination of being left wing, really political, and an optimist makes me attracted to a certain type of idea of what a country should look like. But that's not why I'm talking right now. I'm talking because I am at least in my mind, I consider myself a New Democrat, a, despite the fact that I am a socialist. And it's for that reason, and for a few other reasons, that I'd like to talk briefly to you about why I've chosen to record a video this week. Yesterday, August 22nd, marked the 13th anniversary of the day Jack Layton succumbed to his cancer and died. And I talk about this because I don't think in the 13 years since we've lost him, we really had as good of a political discourse in this country as we did when he was alive. And I don't know how to describe it, but he was passionate and gave a damn about what people thought about in this country of mine. In a day and time when so many divisions were coming back up from the surface, in a time where I think this is like the last time we can remember that the Quebec independence question was really still up on the ballot at that rate. Here comes a guy from Quebec who immediately comes off as so charming and likable that the last election he ran as the leader of the party of the NDP, people from across the aisle on the independence side, that independence movement that for decades in this country tried splitting Quebec from Canada, one that was at times can be bitter and angry and over excited. This was a election so important to them, they decided we are going to leave our biases, our usual arguments at home for this time, because there's something far, far better worth defending. Because it's not just because like this was an opportunity to get social democracy on the ballot. Like seriously, that was a thing that like attracted people. That wasn't the main thing. That was Jack. That was all Jack. And it's because he was likable, like really, really likable. Like he was the most likable politician this country has ever produced, bar none. Um, he is the type of guy you could sit at a cafe with, have a 5 minute, what you think is a 5 minute conversation, and then you turn your head and you're out there for an hour and a half, and the coffee hasn't moved. And a lot of people think that of him. If you listen to his speeches, you'll notice that. And I know it's biased, but like, oh, what the hell? I need to be biased. This guy's great. A lot of his views were stuff that at the time was, I don't know, ridiculously ahead of his time. Like someone who was very much a, I don't want to say risk taker. Risk taker is the wrong word. Someone who saw the worth in fighting for a cause, no matter its controversiality. This is a man who fought for AIDS patients in the 1980s, the Reagan 1980s. That had to have been a risk for his career. It must have been. This was a man who openly asked the question about male on female violence, decades before the words intimate partner violence would re-enter the books and re-enter the debate space in the modern Canadian age now. And he was doing this in the 80s and 90s, and that was incredible as is. But as he grew up, he up as a politician, he got better at it. Even though cancer had twice gotten him, he was no less energetic. Proportional representation, the increase, not increase, the expansion of our already solid healthcare system at the time, caring for Canadians, just caring for people. He cared for people. He was happy for people. He wanted people to progress. He wanted his nation to progress. And that's something that's passionate and beautiful and amazing. And we don't have much of that anymore. And as someone who regularly has questions about whether or not he wants to stay here after he's done with high school, it's sometimes odd to hear anything that isn't bitter cynicism about the place I live, because it's been rough and it's been filled with anger. No, everybody's at each other's throat. Nobody's happy. So whether it's Trudeau this or Polivier that, there's always a debate that's consistently vitriolic and venomous amongst my fellow Canadians. And it's weird because not that long ago, people used to not be this angry. Sure, they still were, and for quite a few right reasons, but they weren't this bitter, they weren't this angry. The discussion didn't turn into an us versus them like it is down south. It's different. It's just the energy is much different. In his last speech to Canadians, as he was resigning from the leadership after he brought this party that had always been a third or fourth place player into its greatest era ever. The party that was now the official opposition, 103 seats, the greatest victory we have ever accomplished as a party. The cancer came back, of course, and he couldn't lead the party that he was so proud to announce to the country was going to do everything it could to kick ass and serve the people and bring benefits back to its country that it would so proudly serve. The one that he so proudly defended and so proudly declared that he was going to make a good change and that he was going to, work for it and make sure it had prospered. He couldn't lead that, not because of anything that could be controlled, but because of the opposite. Something that he could not control. Something that none of us could have possibly predicted or really put brakes to. And in in his very last letter to Canadians, he finished off the said letter to everyone with, "My friends, love is better than anger. Hope is better than fear. Optimism is better than despair. So let us be loving, hopeful, and optimistic, and we'll change the world. All my very best, Jack Layton." To the very, very end, he campaigned for and believed in and fought for those exact very ideals, right to the grave. In his election night speech, in the proudest thing he ever brought to the table as the leader of the great party, he said, Step by step, working together, we can build the Canada we want. A country worthy of the hopes and dreams of those young Canadians who said no to the same old cynicism, to the negativity, to the politics of the usual, and they said yes to a Canada where anything is possible, where we all stick together, and no one is left behind. Now, I struggle a lot with patriotism. It is not something that comes naturally to me. I have my criticisms. I'm a big, gigantic, sarcastic bag, and if you ask me to really believe in anything, I'm gonna speculate and be a bit of a wise ass about it. Jack may be one of the few politicians that can get me to sit down and shut up and actually have something to be proud of that I can shout from like a rooftop, hey, this is what I believe in and this is what I want for my country, for which I love so much. And a lot of the times I reconsider that love. A lot of the times I wonder, what if it wasn't this country that was meant to be? What if it's Britain? What if it's Germany? What if it's blah blah blah? But then I hear Jack, and for a moment I'm reminded of all the values that, amongst all the arguments and anger and bitterness, get buried underneath the way. And I am reminded why I don't just live here because I was born here. I live here because I want to live here. I live here because I love living here. I live here because there is a wide span of country that I can be proud to call my own, proud to wrap myself in the flag of, be proud, even when our hockey team our hockey teams suck complete ass. Because inherently there is something beautiful in what we're defending. We're defending a nation who didn't quite form in the usual way, but whose love for each other and the thing we are all united by is stronger than anything else. And it might be because and you might say, oh, it's also because he's a progressive. And yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. But it's that progressivism that was wrapped with this listening ear that wanted to talk to every Canadian who had a concern and try and comfort them as much as they could. It's this human care. It's this empathy and this love and this cherishing gratefulness. It's the hopeful optimism. It's all of that. It's all of what he put into everything he did as a city councilor, as an MP, as a party leader, as a father, as a husband, as a person, as a human being that represent to me not just really what I want out of a politician, not just what I really want out of a leader, what I want out of a human being, what I want out of a Canadian. They didn't call it the Orange Crush for no reason. It was a revolution. And I wish it didn't end as bitterly as it did. That after such a beautiful thing had blossomed in May. But in late August, we did lose him. And the funeral wake was great. A country felt a wound. People felt a noticeable loss. There was an absence in the air, and you could feel it, and you could notice it from a mile away. And there was no one in that house that had a dry eye. There was nobody who didn't have a good story, who didn't have something nice to say, who didn't have a good word. Didn't matter what party you were part of. Didn't matter what cause you believed in. Liberals, conservatives, Quebec nationalists, for a moment, Western, Western, Quebec separatists, Western nationalists, Western regionalists. I'm not sure. I'm getting tongue tied here. But the point is, for one moment, the labels couldn't have mattered there couldn't have been 2/3 of an elephant's ass given about it. For one brief moment, politics were not the main focus at the table. We were focusing on honoring and speaking about and mourning and celebrating and honoring the life and legacy and words and actions and everything of a great man, a great human being, a great leader, a great everything. A man who, in my opinion, represents everything the country I love ought to be. Jack Layton may have died 13 years ago this week. He may have died 13 years ago yesterday. But the things he believed in, the ideas he had, the outlook, opinions, and specifically the way, the distinct way of his distinct belief. I'm so sorry, I'm just getting tied up here. Of what he thinks, of what he thought his country ought to have been, should have represented, ought to have strived for. What he believes we should have progressed to, rose to the challenge of. Honest to God, what he spoke, what he believed in us for, what he believed that we could do, that optimism, that hope, that power, that we could all strive for greater, that we could all rise to ascend to better, that this country would go forward and blossom a beautiful, strong champion. His emotional outpouring of love and peace and goodwill. It's the optimism and hope. I know I'm rambling, but I'm trying to, but with each and every time I repeat myself and say it, I need you to understand I am emphasizing a point. I am trying to boldly outline it. I'm trying to very much emphasize and bold and, sorry, you know what I mean. I'm getting tongue-tied because I'm trying to find the right words even though I can't. And I refuse to edit any of this out. This is my honest to God feelings right on the table. My honest to God thoughts. My mind is spilling out. It's 9 o'clock. I haven't slept at all. I've been depressed for a while, but I'm coming out of the woodworks to say something now. I'm boldly just repeating myself to make the statement more clear and more out there and more notable, to say that with everything he believed in and with the distinctly optimistic's one word, this man was distinctly faithful and proud of us as a country, of us as a people, of us as a group. We as a nation owe Jack Layton for reminding us and regifting us with that special optimistic kick, that hopeful shout. It's what we miss in this country. It's what we need in this country. It's what made him so special. It's what makes the message so special. And it's that optimism, it's his ideas, it's his views, it's his words, it's his happiness, his optimism, all of that. The man may be dead, but none of what he spoke or believed in or showed will ever die in this country. Not as long as we don't let it. My ramble's over from this point onward. I don't know what to say. Jack, we still miss you. God damn it, man, we miss you. We loved you, man. We still love you. God bless your soul, you great patriot, you. As I think I only practiced this once. I only practiced trying to do the introduction for this once, and during it I cried. And there aren't many politicians who make me do that. Between him and Bobby Kennedy, there's nobody else. That's it. I'm done. Uh, Thank you, Mr. Layton, for loving all of us, for believing in all of us, for telling us so. Because this country loved and believed in you right back.